I'm going to show you the 10 ways to get your next house deal. Now, I've been investing in real estate for 15 years, bought literally hundreds of houses. And these 10 ways I've used myself. I'm going to show you each one, the pros and the cons, and exactly how to do it. So let's start with number one, the one that everybody knows, which is buying a house off the market, off the MLS, through a real estate agent. It's going to be listed on Zillow. It's going to be listed through the real estate agents. But there is a way to get a deal here. But the first thing that you need to understand is that the easier it is to get access to that house, the higher the price is going to be. It's simple economics. It's supply and demand. So the multiple listing service, the MLS, it's easy to go find a house there. You go into Zillow right now. Anybody can do it. There is no gatekeeper. And that means that all the lazy people out there will be able to do it. They'll be able to go out there and buy it. There'll be more demand for that property, more buyers for a smaller supply. That means the price will get pushed up to the max amount. And truly, if people go list their house, they're looking to get the highest price possible. That's the most important thing to them. But there are some ways that you can get a deal on a house that's listed. Number one is to be the fastest. All right. If you are constantly watching the market, see what pops up there, and you're the first to put in an offer, see the thing go up there, you go look at it really quick, you have your real estate agent put an offer in. Okay, now the seller is going to be in the situation where they're like, well, I think that I can get more for the house, but do I want to take my chances? All right, so that's being fastest. Next is to be the slowest. All right, you see a house that's been listed for 100 plus days, 200 days. It's been listed for way longer than the average days on market. All right, well, most people at that point are looking at that house thinking, there's probably something wrong with it. So I'm not sure if I want that. And there probably is something wrong with it. And that's why here we talk a lot about skills. And skills make you not scared of the things that other people are scared of. So maybe it needs a big renovation. Maybe it's got other issues. Maybe it's just got perceived issues. But being slow allows you to go in there and make an offer that's lower than their list price because, those people are probably biting their nails at that point. Or maybe they're just unrealistic about the price. But these give you opportunities. And then finally is to be strategic. And really, whether you're buying fast or slow, strategic is the way that you're going to get a deal on the MLS. And what I mean by strategic is that here's what you're going to do. And this might sound shady, but I'm going to give you the ways that make this a straight up deal. All right, house is listed for $150,000. Your primary goal first is to give the lowest offer possible that you think will get accepted. All right. So if I think that I can get them to accept, let's say 135, 140. It's a little bit lower than the list price, but I get them to accept it. Now I go have an inspection done. All right. This is the timeline on a house on the market is going to look like this. You're going to have first, you have your offer, okay? And now you might have some back and forth on the offer. This is the close when you actually buy it. You might have some back and forth on the offer. So you might put an offer in for 135. They come back and say, oh, you know what? I won't take 135. I have it listed for 150, but I'll take 145. And then you come back and you say, well, let's meet in the middle at 140. So you get the house under contract at 140 after some possible negotiations here. That says negotiation, 140K. Now, the next timeline is an inspection resolution. Inspection. So you hire an inspector to come in and they find all the things that are wrong with that property. Now, this is what separates being shady from not being shady. All right, there's certain things that you can see, like you can see that maybe the windows are old or the roof is older, and that's kind of built into your offer price, the things that you can see. You know that you need to put in new cabinets. You know that you're going to need to put in new floors and such. So you can't claim that you didn't know that until the inspection. Of course you can, but that's kind of like drawing the line. But when you go in there to make an offer on the house, you're not testing receptacles, outlets. You're not testing the lights. You're not testing the mechanical, electrical, plumbing, and really you're not testing the roof. You might be able to visibly see things, but the inspector comes in and they're the professionals that go look at all these things. They're going to look at the structure. They're going to look at once again, MEPs. All right. And things are going to come up. Listen, it doesn't matter if you have a brand new house. Things are going to come up on that inspection list because, well, inspectors have a job, the home inspector, and they're certainly not going to give you a blank list. Otherwise, they're not going to get hired to go back again. And you're going to take that list and you're going to say, okay, well, based on these things, I just can't buy it at 140. I didn't know about those things. And you didn't tell me about those things before. So based on that, I'm going to have to bring that price down to, let's say, 125. And there's going to be some negotiation there. They're going to say, oh, well, I can't do 125. Oh, how about 135? No, but I'll meet you in the middle at 130. All right. So now you've brought the price down even more. Now, depending on if you're buying this house with cash or if you're buying it with a loan, there's also going to be an appraisal that's done. And sometimes there's going to be a renegotiation based on that appraisal, because a lot of times the appraiser will have a checklist as well, like an inspection list. And there might be another negotiation there that brings the price down a little bit more. Now, another thing that you can do to try to get the best upfront price is you can say, okay, well, I'm a cash buyer. I'm not going to do an inspection. I'm not doing an appraisal because I'm a cash buyer. But because of that, I want a great deal on the front end. I'm going to offer you $120K on the front end, and I'm going to close in like 10 days. Okay, now the person is sitting there thinking, I could have this off my hands in 10 days. Maybe I'll take that deal. And now I know a lot of you are sitting here thinking like 150 for a house. Well, I'm looking for a house that's probably seen better days. All right. In my market, that is actually a thing that I can find. The median in the market that I'm in is around $320,000. So finding a house that is in a lower than median neighborhood already that needs some work, it would be common to be able to find a deal like this. Okay, but you got to think about it from the buyer's perspective, that if they're wanting 150, especially if it just got put on the market, 120 is going to be hard for them to swallow. So, this way here kind of slows down the process. All right, once again, difference between being shady and not being shady is you're not going to try to come in the inspection and say, oh, well, I just figured out that I'm going to need to redo those floors, because obviously you knew you were going to redo the floors. All right, so that is how you would get a deal on the MLS. All right, it's hard to get deals on the MLS, especially when the market is in a good position. Right now, the market's been in gridlock for a while, and so sellers are getting a little bit more antsy because there's less buyers out there buying. And so sometimes you can pull off a deal like this. Now, next is what we would call a pocket listing. So this is the MLS. Now we have a pocket listing. Okay, a pocket listing is when you have a relationship with a real estate agent, and the real estate agent has sellers. All right, they're constantly working deals to get listings, and what they're going to do is they're going to get this listing and they're going to say, okay, I'm going to need 6% commission that I'm going to share with the other side, the buyer's agent that brings me a buyer for this listing that I have. And it's usually going to be around 6%, maybe 5%. There are people out there that do the flat fees or whatever, but let's just, most common is 6%. They're going to have to share that. So on a $200,000 house, that's going to be $12,000. And generally they're going to have to split that $6,000 to themselves and $6,000 to the buyer's agent that brings a buyer to them. All right. And just so you know, unless they're the actual broker of their brokerage, they're going to have to take a cut from the brokerage. So the brokerage is actually getting paid the $6,000, and the brokerage then pays the agent a certain split. Let's just say that split is 80-20. So of that $6,000, the agent that works for the brokerage is going to get paid $4,800 from that. All right. But if they are to bring the buyer as well, so they have the listing and they bring the buyer, they get to make this whole $12,000, or, their brokerage makes $12,000. They make 80% of the $12,000, which is going to be $9,600 in their pocket. So it's obviously in the real estate agent's best interest to also find a buyer. Now, this is a little bit of shady ground here because it's probably in the buyer's or the seller's best interest that they go put it on the open market and get the highest price humanly possible. But I've made other videos about what I think about real estate agents and their true priorities. All right. But what a real estate agent would love to do is find a buyer like you who they can show this property to before it goes onto the market. That's what a pocket listing is. So some people's strategy is to make friends with some real estate agents so they can get their pocket listings. And I will say right now that there are 10 strategies that we're going through. You really aren't going to do all 10 on day one. You want to pick a couple and really focus on it. Focus is always the best strategy. Okay. Now, number 3 is kind of like a pocket listing. Okay. But not from a real estate brokerage that does buying and selling, but from a PM company. Okay. This is a property management company. So we own a property management company. We manage 1,000+ doors. And sometimes the investors who own those houses, they want to sell those houses. Okay. And a lot of times those houses have tenants in them already and, taking those houses to the market. So PM companies, a lot of times they'll list the houses themselves because they are brokers. Sometimes they farm them out to brokerages that just focus on, buying and selling real estate. But dealing with a tenant is a tough deal because every time somebody wants to do a showing, you got to get with the tenant, you have to schedule a showing, and it's really a big pain in the butt. So the ideal thing is that there is somebody who would buy that property without having to go through all that stuff. So there's the PM company, let's just call it a PM company pocket listing as well. It's very similar, but obviously you would be targeting your focus and your relationship building on PM companies at that point. Now, next here is a for sale by owner. All right. Now, for sale by owner means that me, as an owner of a property, I decide, you know what, I'm not going to use a brokerage, either a real estate agent that would list it on the MLS or a PM company that's also a broker. I'm going to list it myself. Okay. And I can do that right now on something like Zillow or Redfin, or I can even do, all right. So you can always list yourself on Zillow or the like, or all of them. It would be the best. Or you can do this thing. It's called like List for Freedom or something like that. That's just the one that I know of. But this is basically like a backwards loophole way of getting your house on the MLS, making it look like it's getting listed from a brokerage, but it's actually you listing it. And the way these companies work is they are a brokerage and they are actually the ones listing it, but you're paying them a flat fee. Hope I don't confuse you here. Okay, so it'd be just like hiring a real estate agent, but you're paying them a flat fee. It's usually a really low fee because they're not really going to do anything. All right, agents are going to call them and say, hey, I want to see the house at 123 Main Street, and everything's automated. They never get to actually talk to anybody. They leave voicemails. The voicemails get forwarded to you. You listen to them, and you say exactly how you want to respond or whatever. And it's a whole big pain in the butt, but it is a way for sale by owners to look like they're not for sale by owners. But finding legit for sale by owners is another way to find deals. All right. And now you'll be dealing directly with the seller. Now you can have some real negotiations. There's not all the different hands in the pockets, the 6% or whatever that brokerages might charge. And so you can generally get a better deal here, and you're actually talking with a real person. Okay. This, just like all the other strategies, is going to take a lot of follow-up. You're going to have a lot of wasted time, but that is just the thing. All right, guys. Everybody thinks every strategy is broken. Oh, this used to work back in 96, but it's not working now. They all work. They're always going to work. They're always going to work. But you just got to stay on it. That's it. The fortunes favor the persistent. Okay. So pick a couple, stick with them, and go. They all work, I promise you. Some work better than others, which I'm going to get into here. All right, so next, for sale by owner is kind of like buying an off-market deal. All right, these before here, the MLS, the pocket listing is kind of off-market, but it's pretty close to being on market. Buying through a PM company, same kind of thing. For sale by owner is pretty much off-market. You get it. Okay. Number 5 is true off market, which is going through a wholesaler. All right. What wholesalers do is they lock down deals direct to seller with using any of the strategies that I'm about to show you. Okay. Wholesalers are generally the best deal finders there are out there. That's what they do, is they find deals, they get them under contract. So they're going to get a house under contract for, let's say, $120,000 for 123 Main Street. And then they're going to go to their list of buyers like you, and they're going to say, hey, I got this great house here. I'll sell it to you for $130,000. And you say, yeah, sure, I'll do that. And then what's actually happening at closing is you are buying the house for $120,000 plus a $10,000 wholesale fee or marketing fee or whatever they're going to call it. But you're paying them $10,000 for finding you that deal, a finder's fee, they might call it. And that's how wholesalers work. The problem is that the wholesalers' fees aren't usually $10,000. Now I see them $30,000, $40,000. I even paid, I'm not kidding you, $100,000 for one single deal. It was on a 12-unit apartment building, but that wholesaler made $100,000 for selling that thing to me. And, even though it's a good deal for me, that is not going to sit well. It's a really hard thing to sit well. And so what that leads a lot of people to is, instead of going through wholesalers, they go direct themselves. They become the wholesaler, direct to seller. Okay, now before I get into that, I do want to say a couple things about the strategy here with the wholesalers. Okay, there are going to be lots of wholesalers in your town. What you need to do is you need to compile a list of all of them. Find them. They're in the Facebook groups. They're in the local RIAs that you go to. They are going to be easy for you to, they might be sending you mail if you own houses. They're going to be easy to find because they want to find you as a buyer, because they need to build their marketing engine to go get deals, and they need to build their engine to go sell those deals to buyers like you. So they should be easy to find, and you want to continually compile the list because it also helps you see what things are worth in your neighborhood. And the best way to get deals from wholesalers is to find like newer wholesalers in the game who haven't built a huge buyers list yet, because back to supply and demand, once they've started to build a really big buyers list, well, their demand is just as high as on the market. In fact, it might be even higher, because most investors stop buying houses on the MLS because they want houses that have some issues, that have been beat up. And a lot of times you're not going to find those on the market because real estate agents, they're too fancy to list houses like that. It might make them look bad if they have a dirty house with dirty stuff in it that needs some work. And so a lot of times investors are going to the wholesalers instead of the MLS, because I do it too. Just if a house is on the MLS, I automatically think, oh, crappy deal for sure. And so people start going to the wholesalers. But once again, that makes their demand higher. Therefore, the price starts to get higher and higher to where you start paying these big fees. So the way to get deals from wholesalers is generally find newer ones that have not built their buyers list yet and become their best friend, become their best buyer. Okay, now you become the wholesaler, all right, and not to actually go sell to other people, but for you to buy. So you go direct to seller, and guys, this is pretty simple. What you do is you have to buy a list, okay, and a list, and this list is going to have all the properties. It's going to have the owner of the property. It's going to have the owner's mailing address. You can even take it further and get their phone number, their email address, and it's going to give you other information about that property. Okay, so you buy this list, and the list is it's really broken down into filters. So I filter my buy box, the actual properties that I would buy, what square footage, a range, in what neighborhoods. Usually I use census tracts to figure out what neighborhoods that I like to buy in. And all right, so I have my one filter that is just the buy box in my town, okay, in my city, which, that buy box is like, there's probably 70,000 houses inside of that buy box. So I want to filter it down even further from there. So then it's the right audience is the way that I look at it. Okay. And so I filter it down to like, I want people, not LLCs. So any house that's owned by an LLC, I don't want that. I don't want anybody that owns more than 3 houses. I don't want anybody who's bought a house within the last few years. All right. These are active buyers, and they're probably not going to sell me their house. Okay. So I filtered it down from buy box to audience. Now my list is down to like 30,000 records probably. And then at that point, I'm going to filter it down into different pain points. Okay. And these pain points might be like tax delinquency. Okay. And these, the list builders out there, as I'm trying to write delinquency, it's taking a lot of my brain power. Okay. Tax delinquency, not bankruptcy, because those houses are hard to buy. It might be, fire damage. You could have water shut off. You could have code violations. Okay. All these lists are findable. Okay, so, and there's more than just this, by the way. I have 13 pain lists. Divorce, you have probate. That means that somebody died. I know that's sad, but, those people need to sell their house. Yeah, and you want these pain points because these are motivated people, all right? They want to sell their house. They have a reason to sell their house, a higher likelihood to have a reason to sell the house. So I have these 13 pain lists that are filtered down, and like my tax delinquency, buy box plus audience plus tax delinquency, it might have 800 people in it. And this one might have like 10 people in it. Okay. And all my 13 lists combined, 13 lists equals 2,336. That's how many people are in those lists combined. Okay. And so what I do from there is I send them mail. Easy enough. Send a mail every month. I get some calls from that mail. Now, you could also cold call. You could do cold outreach like text. Okay, there are rules, by the way, with how you can cold call and cold text people. So make sure you're following those. You could email those people. You could reach them. You could door knock. You could do all these different things. Okay, but the point is that I have a targeted list. My power went out, so some stuff was not working there for a second, but hopefully you saw that. So I have a targeted list, and here they are, 13 lists, 2,336 people, and then I outreach, mail, cold call. I like mail because I'm okay spending a little bit of money. It's usually going to be like 60 cents to $1.50 per piece of mail per month, depending on what type of mail you're sending. There are like cheap postcards you can send. That's 60 cents. Or you can do like handwritten letters. You can pay for those. Some get better response. Some build your brand better. It depends what your strategy is. But just recently I had a mail drop. I got 6 phone calls off of it. And 1 or 2 of those might turn into a deal. Okay. And that is a great way to buy direct to seller. By the way, exactly what wholesalers do is just that. Okay, and now the next pain point, really, and I'm classifying this as a different source because the process is a little bit different, and that is pre-foreclosures. Okay, these are people, and it depends on what state you're in. There are judicial foreclosures and non-judicial foreclosures. Quite honestly, the only experience I have is with non-judicial. Tough tongue twister there, rubber baby buggy bumper. The non-judicial state. I'm in Tennessee. That's how they do it. And the process is a little bit different for a judicial state. A judge basically has to say that this house can go to foreclosure. All right, but pre-foreclosure works like this. In one way or another, the people have not been making payments on their mortgage on their house, and somebody has said, hey, that's enough. We're going to foreclose on this thing. And at that point, you can still come in and buy it. Okay. Now, depending on how deep they get in the process, there might be more people involved, like a trustee or, I guess in a judicial state, a judge or whatever, some kind of lawyers involved. Okay. But you can still buy this before the foreclosure auction. Okay. Now, that is number 8, is the actual foreclosure auction. Have you ever heard of people say that they're going to buy a house at the courthouse steps? Well, they're talking about buying a foreclosure auction. That means that one of the lien holders, now it doesn't necessarily need to be the primary mortgage on it. It could be a secondary mortgage that is actually foreclosed on it. You probably don't want to buy those. But anyway, the mortgage lender on the property says, I've had enough, I'm foreclosing on the thing, and they have to go through a legal foreclosure, which generally happens at the courthouse steps, or my experience has been foreclosures at the courthouse steps, and you go up there with cashier's checks and you go bid on the house. Generally what would happen is, let's say that it was a house where the lender has a $120,000 loan left over on it. Okay, there's usually going to be some fees from like a trustee, which is a lawyer. Let's say those fees are $5,000. So they're probably going to do an opening bid of $125,000. But if nobody else is bidding on it, you might say, hey, I'll take that house for $125,001, because the bank doesn't want to own a property. They're not good at real estate. So they just want to get their original paid back and any fees. Depending on the market you're in, though, the lender might start their bidding way lower. They might say, you know what, let's start at $60,000. And, they may have somebody there bidding as well to bid it up to 125, but they might take a hit. And by the way, when a bank takes a hit, takes less than they're actually owed on it, that's where a short sale comes in. Okay. And also in the pre-foreclosure process, same thing. They might owe 120, but you get talking to the bank and the bank agrees that, you know what, we'll take 90 for that. And that is a short sale. They have taken less than they're owed on the property and you get to own the property. So short sale is kind of a function of these two. All right. So that's a foreclosure. But let's say that you did not want to bid over the 125 because it just wasn't the kind of deal that you wanted. Well, that means that the bank wins the foreclosure auction, and now it becomes number 9, an REO, real estate owned by the bank. Okay. That means the bank won the foreclosure auction. Now the bank owns the property, and some banks are going to have real estate agents that they work with, and the real estate agent's just going to take that REO and they're going to put it on the market, and then it's going to be a lot like any other house on the market. In fact, the first house I ever bought was an REO. It was right after the 2008 crash, and there were lots of them on the market, and I got a pretty good deal on one. Looking back, it wasn't that great of a deal. It should have been way better, but whatever, it was a good start. That's what an REO is, though. The bank has taken it back. Some banks, though, they just are newer to the process. So one of the best deals I ever bought was 3 houses in one. And this bank was like a smaller bank. They ended up winning the foreclosure auction. because they just really didn't know how it worked. So, you think these guys all have a lot of experience. They don't. This was just a guy that I was talking to that ran that department of the bank, and they won the auction, bought it back. They had these 3 houses sitting on their books, and well, I'll just tell you, the houses were probably worth $250,000 and picked them up for like 70 grand because they just didn't know what to do with the properties. And so that's what an REO looks like. Some people chase these REOs. Once again, guys, you want to pick a couple and get really good at them. And then the final one, which I'm going to tell you right now, I don't have any real experience with tax sales, foreclosures, tax auction. Tax auctions are kind of like foreclosures, except for it's not the lender foreclosing. It's that the people owed taxes, back taxes. And, maybe they've been delinquent for years. I think it's usually after like 3 or 5 years that they'll get foreclosed on through a tax auction, a tax sale. And, well, the government doesn't give a crap about it at all. They'll just take the exact amount that they're owed. So this is where people pick up like sick deals on houses. You pick up a house for 30 grand or something like that. The problem with tax auctions, and truly the thing that has prevented me from doing it, is there is a thing called a redemption period. Different for different states, but basically what it means in my state, for example, I believe the redemption period is 1 year. That means that I could buy this at a tax auction for, let's say, 30 grand, got a fantastic deal. Okay, but the person who lost the house, they have a whole year to come redeem the property, meaning they pay the $30,000 and they get the house back. And there are people out there that do a little strategy that I call redemption hacking. Maybe that's the name that everybody uses for it, where they'll like partner up with the old owners and like give them the 30 grand and, they'll go redeem the house, and whatever deal that investor made with them, they'll end up getting the house, for some kind of huge discount. So you might have your money tied up and not even get the thing you want. And that's not really my style of doing things. I don't like to, I like all the things that I can control by having skills. Okay. And really that is my whole, methodology about everything, is that knowledge times experience, using the knowledge that you gain and things like this, equals skills. And once you have skills, you're unstoppable. So I don't like a strategy where something is out of my hands like that, when there are 9 other strategies that I can control. And that's what I teach. Like I said, there's a link in the description for my free For Now school community, where I'll answer any of your questions. And if you don't want to hop in there, why don't you watch this next video? Thanks for hanging out, guys. And sorry about the little video glitch somewhere in the middle there.